I guess I got to do it, right? No barking. So good evening, fight fans. Shout out to my guy Nick Bockins. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy K Witt, your mama's #1 draft pick, and my brother from another mother, man. My brother, Mr. Bobby Blunt. We are in the building. This is Headkicks and Haymakers. Right now we are down one man. So normally when what we've learned in the past week is when a fighter or a challenger goes down, we normally bring somebody in. We don't know who. We have no idea when they're coming. We don't know what weight class they're in. We have no clue. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go with the flow right now. But of course, what's going on once again, everybody? It's Head Kicks and Haymakers. Our brother Nick Bockins is out doing his thing. He should be in shortly, so we're gonna go ahead and get it cracking without him. Man, Bobby, last week, bro. First off, I appreciate you coming to hang with us on in the.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. But outside of that, man, Friday was basketball, but Saturday was for the fighters, and I'm talking about from pretty much 2 o'clock to like 10, 11, maybe 9, 10 your time. It was all combat sports, man. We had so much pretty much going on with that UFC fight night, Seattle, and then what was brought to our attention to be the best boxing card ever, so to speak. And to a degree, pretty much both of them lived up to the hype, if I would admit. And then at the same time, like several different announcements got thrown our way. You know what I mean? Some big fights coming up in the near future that we got to look forward to, and I'm super excited about that. Was anything that caught your eye? Because before we get into the fight cards themselves, was there anything that caught your eye in the distant future that was like, yeah, this is the one we've been waiting on, or something?
I mean, it pretty much since we logged off, everything went all haywire immediately, and then fights got followed up by that. Like, we had the boxing card that was lit up, and then the UFC Seattle. It just shows exactly why you need a crowd. Probably biggest takeaway about all that still. I mean, we saw a bunch of fights and stuff, but Ilia Topuria vacating the title pretty much right when we signed off was pretty wild. To me, that only told us one thing, and it's the UFC has the new biggest fight to book on the roster, which is Ilia Topuria challenging Islam. So can't wait for that to get dropped. But yeah, they dropped a bunch of different stuff, and plus the fights. So let's get into it.
Most definitely, man. And of course, we saw for ourselves the reactions to like real time, the reactions to some of the fights that were getting made, and we were just going like, "There's no way this is what's going on. There's no way this is the." And you're right. Like, to be honest with you, before we get deep into the cards, I think Taporia vacating, the title to move up was the big. Like, of course, there are going to be more, but this was the biggest announcement that we've heard thus far in 2025. For them to even, or for Ilya to be entertaining, moving up, stopping his title defense reign, which at the time, 3, 4 fights in, seemed like he was an unstoppable force. You know what I mean? And the defenses don't even match up to what we thought they would be, all three of them, But to say, okay, forget it, I won't even do another one. Let's just go ahead and step up to the next biggest thing. I think that was a big deal. And it's crazy because the style in which they did it, it's so much other stuff going on, but Uncle Dana likes a show. So for him to kind of jump in on, boxing card night, UFC Seattle night, and just go, yeah, wait till I'm finished with this, and then I'm gonna drop something else on y'all. I think that was pretty dope, man. It's another fight being made. It involves, man. Check this out, right? Oh, guess what, everybody? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We got somebody in the green room right now. We're gonna go ahead and bring them in. I think they're gonna talk about one of these upcoming fights. We got, oh my God, It's the American Dream, Mr. Michael Chandler. Mr. Chandler, you in the building. What's going on? Welcome to Headkicks and Haymakers.
Thank you for having me. Happy to walk on to Headkicks and Haymakers tonight. The greatest showman in the UFC, here to promote my upcoming fight with Patrick Pimblett in Miami, April 12th.
What, bro? That was, listen, when we heard the news, I think we were shocked because this is one of those that we thought, we kind of predicted that this is right up your alley to put you where you want to be. I know, you're one of those fighters where every time you get into the ring, it's exciting. It's box office. What do you see going on with you and Patty in April, man?
Thank you for the high praise, and I tend to agree. I think, with respect to my fellow fighters on this card, I think this is the most exciting matchup that you're going to see in Miami that night. I see it going one of two ways: an early knockout for me, or a knockdown, drag out war that Patrick simply has never been in before. I think I have more dog in me. I think I have a more powerful why, which is really what drives. This is a physical sport, but it's really a mental, emotional, spiritual sport. And I beat him 10 days out of 10 in that regard.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. And I listen, bro. As you started talking about the whys, I'm thinking about my whys right now for just doing this show, and I'm getting pumped up right now. Bobby, you got anything you want to throw to the soon to be contender right here, man, Mr. Chandler?
I mean, it was definitely a fight I was happy that got made. Um, as someone, and with all due respect, when I asked this, as someone that has, had like multiple fouls in the octagon, what did you think of how the main event ended in Seattle on Saturday there?
Great question.
I don't know what you're talking about, first off, as far as my perceived fouls. When you're in the octagon, stuff happens. Okay, we're competitors. And I'm not that's all I have to say about that. But the fight we had just seen, uh, Song wasn't, doing that intentionally, and I think it's really on Cejudo in that respect to continue on. I mean, we've seen championships won with literally one eye, right? And no one knew about it at the time. We've seen exciting fights. I forget the gentleman's name, the Pirate in the Middle East, right? And everyone goes into it knowing, okay, he has one eye. And Cejudo never said he couldn't see out of both eyes. He said, I can't see, and when pressed out of one eye. So I don't think Song did anything wrong there. It certainly wasn't intentional. Things happen in there. I don't think he went in there thinking I'm going to win this by eye poke. And yeah, uh, and again, I'm not a dirty fighter. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, bro. You're definitely not a dirty fighter. We know when Michael Chandler is involved, integrity is at its highest, especially when we see you on a card like this. So April 12th, Patty Pimblett, someone that it looks like you guys have had a couple of interactions through social media. Are you now into a social media beef as it is, or is this just a part of the sport as well? This is talking and talk before you get into the ring.
I think we're keeping it friendly. There's no real animosity there. But as the fight grows closer, that flip gets switched. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he signed on that dotted line because he thinks he can beat me. He wants what I have. And if you look at his resume, I'm going to be his biggest test by far. I think before that, it was my teammate down at Killcliff, Jared Gordon, who I think many people think beat him. And I've been working with him very closely on how to recreate some aspects of that performance. My style is quite different than Jared's, but there's going to be a lot of questions answered, I think, quickly about Mr. Patrick Pimblett on April 12th.
That's for sure, man. And I just want to say this really quickly, and this is a part of a question to a degree. So, in your last fight against Charles Oliveira, it looked like to several viewers that, oh man, this isn't the fight the way that the fight would go in Chandler's favor. But I want to give you 100% credit for pulling through, for making it exciting, closer to the into championship rounds. Like when something like that is happening to you in the ring, where does your mind go to say, oh, you know what? Screw it. All bets are off. I'm dumping him on his head 3 times. What, twice?
I recall three, and like I said, things happen in there. It's all a blur, but I'm an entertainer first and foremost, and of course I want to win, and I that was the most emotionally trying defeat of my entire career. That night after the fight, I got in my SUV with my wife, and I cried for many hours. And I'm not afraid to say that because it really meant so much. The culmination of our first fight, I was right there looking at a title shot, and yeah, when we're in those championship rounds and he's on my back, I'm thinking, what can I do to demonstrate that I truly have the upper hand here? And I could have been the first fighter to get a KO off of slamming someone while having a back take. That's just the kind of explosivity, the kind of athleticism, the kind of unpredictability that I bring to the octagon, even late into the fourth and fifth rounds. And again, Patty's never seen something like that.
Listen, bro, you're exactly right about this one. Now, this type of challenge that you got upcoming with Patty Pimblett, a younger, fresher fighter who's coming up the ranks. A lot of people were at first, especially in the very early parts of his career, were saying they were kind of force feeding us a lot of Patty Pimblett. As right now, you're coming off of your toughest two losses, in my opinion. These are really tough too, because I'm a fan, to be honest with you. Are you prepared to be that what's a good word? What do we call Neil Magny? What do we call Neil Magny, Bob? Uh
A gatekeeper?
yes. Are you ready to be that gatekeeper in that division that shuts the doors on young men's careers to say, hey, this isn't it. You're not ready yet. There's levels to this. Are you prepared to do that to Patty Pimblett, April 12th?
And I have a lot of respect for Magny. I appreciate the question. It's I'll refer back to something my old rival Dustin Poirier told me. This is my house. And when Patty gets in there with me, I'm going to show him this is my house. He's new to the UFC. You're right. He's been given a light touch. Again, I think my teammate Jared was the first real, with respect to his other competitors, first real step up competitively. And I and many others think he failed it. So yes. It's not where I want to be. I think with a good win, there's a lot of interesting things coming this summer. The lightweight division is in flux, and who knows? There's only good things in my future, and in the immediate, it is going to be great to get the horrible taste of my last loss out and on to bigger things.
Listen, bro, and I completely agree with you. We here at Headkicks and Haymakers are some of your biggest fans and supporters. Each and every time you get into the octagon, we're definitely expecting fireworks from you. Bobby, man, you got anything else you want to throw at Mr. Chandler while we got him, while we hold him in? Oh, hey, who's that? Is that the man, the myth, the legend? Hold on, Mr. Chandler. We're not going to let you go quite yet. I think one of our brothers
No problem at all.
getting into the green room. He's probably getting himself together. Once again, everybody, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. This is Head Kicks and Haymakers, and actually, the regular host of the show, it looks like, is buffering right now. But Baki's got that internet issue thing going on. It's coming. But anyway, well, there we go. Fresh face Bikins at that. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Sorry I'm late, and sorry to our guest, the two-time Bellator champion, number 7 ranked UFC lightweight champion, Mr. Michael Chandler. I don't know if have you guys had an opportunity to talk to Mike yet? I have not got an opportunity to. So
it's actually been pretty cool. Mr. Chandler has let us ask him about the fight coming up on the 12th. We've asked him about his last bout. Of course, one of the craziest, most exciting fights and comebacks against Oliveira. We just kind of, we just shooting with him. And the thing is, he's actually really laid back. I appreciate his whole demeanor throughout this conversation.
So let me ask you, Mike, seems to be a rift between you and Dustin Poirier. He was on RG3's podcast, said he called you a cheat. and said that you're pretty much a scumbag. What do you make to the allegations of Mr. Dustin Poirier?
Well, first off, I want to say he also said, bet the house on me. Okay, you left out that crucial detail, and I think we're actually building some bridges there. But, as far as these disgusting, deplorable allegations, things happen in that octagon. And I think Dustin probably is still a little upset to have had to face me at that point. He's a former interim champion. I have nothing but respect for him inside the confines of that cage. But emotions got heated in that fight. And if you recall, I had him in some tough positions. There were moments there where, it didn't look good for him. And if he, wants to, I want to keep building this bridge, but I got to speak from the heart. If he needs to think that I fish hooked him to go to sleep at night, so be it. We're competitors. I am not a dirty fighter. And I want to again focus on the fact that despite his feelings for me, he said bet the house. So remember that on April 12th, UFC 314 in Miami, the real main event, Michael Chandler versus Patrick Pimblett.
Wow. Bomb drop. I need a bomb button.
What's the strategy going against a guy like Patty Pimblett?
Hooks, overhands, maybe a double leg, explosivity, unpredictability. Testing his heart, if not his chin.
Definitely testing his chin. Now, look, I wanted to throw that out there since you brought it up, bro. Like, the original thought from Bellator was Michael Chandler, heavy-handed wrestler, and thinking about Patty Pimblett, his last opportunity when going against one of your gym mates. You know what I'm saying? He got a little on the ground with him. Are you prepared to try to see if Patty's wrestling acumen is really on that level or on your level this time? Because I mean, it looked like it was working for a while. So especially with somebody with your style, man, you might be able to get him down that way. Are you thinking, stand up and then takedowns? Like, what are we thinking about?
I'm looking at my coach Henry here down in Florida. He's in the gym with me tonight, and he is nodding his head in agreement. Yes, that is always the game plan. It was a walk on in Missouri. Like, it's not. I don't go into these fights with my team working with me saying, "Okay, just swing for the fences." But as I've said before, getting there, things happen, and I think there will be some interesting scrambles. It's certainly. I don't want to tip my cards too much, but you'll just have to tune in to see.
Mike, your division's interesting now. What do you make of Ilya come to the lightweight division? Do you like his chances if he takes on Islam? And then also, I believe that in 2 weeks' time, we have a former foe of yours, Justin Gaethje, rematching with Rafael Fiziev. What do you make of those? Either one of those, that matchup in 2 weeks' time, and the Ilya coming to the lightweight division.
Yeah, first, it's interesting, right, to see Ilya move up and actually vacate the title. Respect him for that. I think he's going to realize how big some of these lightweights are, myself included. Even, to get to your second question, but former foe Justin Gaethje, yeah, I was mixed feelings about the rescheduling against Fiziev because it just as a fan of the sport, it would have been so exciting to see him face off with Dan Hooker, and at the same time, who wouldn't love to see the rematch against Fiziev? And I say Dan Hooker when he is healed up, he's a big guy. There's a lot of lightweights, and some of the only trouble we've seen Ilya really have in the octagon was his one lightweight fight. And he's improved as a champion, but he got dropped bad by the Black Country Banger, and I'm sure that will be on his mind somewhere. For as confident as he is in the media, he's a grounded, realistic, kind person behind the scenes, and yeah, I think he's going to be strategic. I like Islam in that matchup. I think wrestling is going to trump striking uh, as a base, as much as Islam likes to strike. He's also a great kicker, and that was the strike that we saw put Ilya, I believe, on his face in that matchup. So he's also a southpaw. There's a lot of interesting wrinkles to that. And as I said, this summer is going to be interesting. For as many fights just got announced, there are still some more open slots, and who knows what will be in store for us later this summer in the UFC.
Mike, you're forever going to be linked to the one notorious Conor McGregor. Is that if Conor comes back, are you still the first choice? And do you ever think Conor steps foot again in the UFC octagon?
If Conor McGregor comes back, he 100% has to fight me. He's never pulled out of a fight until he was matched up with me. And he pulled out for, what appeared to be a relatively minimal injury. We never really know what's going on behind the scenes. My fight against Charles, things happened in that camp, and I talked to my wife about them, and she knows, but only we know, in the gym, in our families, what we're really going into the octagon, what percentage we're at, and who knows? The last time we saw him in there, if he never fights again now, which if I were a betting man, that's what I would bet on. His last fight is going to be snapping his ankle and making a fool of himself, sitting there on the octagon talking to Joe Rogan, being a doofus. And I don't think that's what he wants for himself. But now he's talking about fighting in bare knuckle. He's continuing to act like a fool. He clearly wants to be in the limelight. And I've had nothing but respect for that man because I've never been in his shoes, right? We might act that way if we were given the keys to the castle in the way that he was. But in my heart of hearts, that fight is always there. If I were to use my head, I don't think he ever fights again.
Bobby, you got any questions for Iron Mike Chandler, the former Bellator champion and number 7 ranked UFC lightweight?
I mean, I was mainly going to ask him if he thought the door for the Conor fight was closed, but it seems like he's still hanging on to that there. What do you plan on doing about Paddy's jiu-jitsu if he tries to grapple with you?
I'm going to do as the great heavyweight Derek Lewis does and just get up. I think it's for guys like us. I've been on the wrestling mat since I was a little kid, and jiu-jitsu doesn't work if you have heart, determination, the mettle that it takes to be a wrestler in the state of Missouri.
I mean, you're like, I mean, that's hard to beat at Missouri University at mine less.
Absolutely.
How did you feel about being the underdog in the fight when the betting lines opened up?
I fight better with a chip on my shoulder. And this isn't new to me. This isn't something I've never experienced before in terms of being the underdog, being overlooked, being viewed as a gatekeeper. Who have I lost to in the UFC? Champions, top 5 guys, close fights. I'm viewing it as more motivation, not that I needed it.
What do you make of people who say like you need this like pickup fight, a guy lower in the rankings to kind of maybe build yourself back up, or maybe you don't belong in those top guys?
This matchup, it was presented to me quite early. With these talks began in January, and if I were the matchmaker, which I'm not, this might not be the direction that I personally would want to go in, right? Look at my schedule over the past number of years. And I was never someone who was inactive, right? If you look at my schedule before I was matched up with Conor and did the Ultimate Fighter, I was fighting quite often. So an imperfect plan accomplished now is much better than a perfect plan accomplished in the future. And that's the energy that I'm taking into Miami in April.
Wait, go ahead. You got one for my Iron Mike here.
Yeah, man. Iron Mike, man. And first of all, man, just you hanging out with us this long is awesome. I just want to let you know that. But quick question, bro. quick question. Now that you have been to what is considered the pinnacle of mixed martial arts, you're in the UFC. You've had a number of fights. You've done your thing. You've won. You've lost. What can you say about what would be considered like your old ex girlfriend, which is now considered PFL slash Bellator? As you see the other promotion, I don't want to say struggling, but they're trying. They're thriving. What is there? Is there like a line, a thought process in which you say, you know what? I know I've known several times. I've seen a lot of interviews. You got a lot of outside enterprises, places you put your money. Could you see yourself going to take what you've learned here in the UFC and saying, "Hey, let me try to apply this to what the guys in the PFL and Bellator need"? Because we hear all kind of reports about fighters being angry about inactivity. We see the production value of PFL main event, main cards, and things of that nature. Like, do you think that one day when Michael Chandler puts the gloves down, you can go back and save the old promotion?
I don't think they could afford me, to be honest. And it's a shame, what's become of. Shout out to Scott Coker. He was always tremendous to work with. Um, I think I would echo the sentiments of many of his fighters um, who are now dealing with this individual, Don Davis, who, it's not easy to be a fight promoter. It's not easy to get the UFC to the place that it's been. It wasn't easy to get Strikeforce or Bellator to the place that it was. And yeah, absolutely not. Would never consider going there. I'm going to retire in the UFC, and as you said, I have a lot of other irons, pardon the pun, in the fire, and I think I hope for the best. I have people I care about who are fighting in that organization, and there's nothing worse as a fighter than wanting to fight and being unable to, financially, and also we're fighters, right? Sparring doesn't accomplish what we're put on this earth to do. And yeah, it's great to see more guys come over into the UFC. Um, in some cases, old rivals of mine. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they fare. Guys like MVP. It's easy to forget that Gaethje was a mainstay of Bellator before, and the World Series of Fighting also, which became the PFL before coming over to the UFC. And the cream will always rise to the top.
Mikey, speaking of old foes, your old foe Pitbull is now in the UFC. What do you like his chances? He's actually on the same card as yours. How do you think that interaction will happen? Say at the presser, there seems to he still seems to have some bad blood for you, which seems to be a reoccurring theme with your opponents.
Yes, he's a promoter, right? If you saw him on Ariel's show this week, he is not afraid to uh, throw the dirt out there and show the private behind the scenes communications. And I think he's smart, right? He's trying to come in and make a splash. And if he wants to come at me, it's going to be foolish because he has a tough fight in front of him. And I'm similarly locked in on Paddy Pimblett. But it would, how great would it be were it to work out, were he to work his way up and uh, change weight classes again? Who knows? I wouldn't scoff at the thought, but obviously I'm focused on the UFC lightweight title after getting through Paddy Pimblett.
Mike, I got two quick questions before we get you out of here. Also, your old foe Eddie Alvarez and BKFC, is that not something that would interest you? Maybe you and Connor and BKFC instead of the UFC.
Henry is here just shaking his head. I mean, would it interest me personally? Possibly, if the check was big enough. But MMA is the sport that I love, and as much as you know, will I wrestle? Won't I wrestle? It is a cornerstone of my game, right? Boxing, especially bare knuckle boxing, but just any kind of boxing, it's really its own sport. And I think my kicks are underrated. My knees, these are all tools that I have trained to be as explosive and violent as possible within the confines of the octagon. So does it interest me? Yes. Uh, but is there the realistic part of me that's thinking about, how can I heal myself as effectively as possible? How can I take care of myself and my future as much as possible? Yes. And as far as Eddie, great competitor. That was an amazing fight. I'm not sure that we'll see him fight again, and that would be no shame whatsoever. He truly puts it all on the line. He did against Jeremy Stevens, and uh, Connor aside, what they are doing, I can't even say that. I think Connor's scratching that itch a little bit in terms of wanting to be in the limelight, but everything he's doing from a business standpoint, it's great for BKFC, and it's great for fighters to have more options in general. As much as UFC is absolutely the place I want to be and retire, it was great to see Eddie get that second life and get that reception in Philadelphia.
And the last question is, how do you see the final fight with you and Patty in April going down?
Early knockout for me, or a knockdown, drag out, slobber knocker of a fight where Patty's heart is tested. He probably gained some stock in losing to me, honestly, the way I see it going, were it not to end as quickly as I would hope. And yeah, it's going to be fireworks. It's the people's main event with respect to all the other gladiators on that card. You got to tune in to see. And as Dustin Poirier said, bet the house on Chandler.
5 rounds, right? 5 rounds. How do you feel about that?
Great. The cardio is going to be there. Again, I think that is going to be a great strength for me over Mr. Pimblett. He has not been tested in that way. And if there's one thing you can say about me is that I only go all gas. You've never seen me, even against Oliveira, right? As crushing a defeat as that was, it takes a lot of energy to slam someone on their back. And that's what I was doing in the 5th round. I don't know that we're going to see Patty, were it to get that far with that much energy, even close.
All right, Mike, we appreciate you joining us. Go ahead. You got anything you need to plug? Any PBJ crams or anything?
Yeah, that's quite funny. No, I won't take your airspace to mention any of my sponsors, but absolutely do check in with me on @HearYou at the top. That's all I got. You know where to find me. Walk on. See you at the top.
Thanks, Mike, and we'll catch you after you beat down Patty Pimblett in April at UFC 314.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, everybody, the former Bellator champion and number 7 ranked UFC lightweight champion, lightweight in the world, Iron Mike Chandler.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Hey,
I hope he doesn't let Patty get his back.
I missed obviously the first 15, 20 minutes of the show. Did you guys cover all the UFC news?
No, we kind of glossed over it. We didn't really cover it.
All right.
I mentioned Ilya vacating mainly.
Yeah, so if you've been sleeping under a rock the last week or so, man, we were waiting as we got word on Wednesday, and that news broke out. We have vacated. Ilya Topuria has vacated the featherweight title. We now know it's going to be Ortega versus Volk. That was announced. We also know Iron Mike Chandler versus Patty Pimblett is now the co-main and to the Miami on that card. What else? I feel like we've just been boom, boom, boom here with the news. We know it's now I forget. What else did we miss here?
So they pulled JDM from the London card, and swapped.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, they swapped Leon's opponent out with Sean Brady, which ironically
Bilal,
is the original fight I wanted. And now Bilal Muhammad will defend his welterweight title against JDM in Montreal. So that should be an interesting one there.
Yeah, that's right. It was Bilal Muhammad is now going to take on JDM. It is now Sean Brady versus versus why is his name fucking blanking? Leon versus Leon. We got that news, and then yesterday there was more news broken out. We know Dan Hooker had to pull out of the fight. Now we're getting Fiziev. Also, we're getting in Kansas City the main event versus is Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't know where to start. Let's just.
We should probably start with. We'll talk about like the ramifications of what Ilya vacating is. But when they announced that vacating, they did announce that Volk will fight Diego Lopez for the current title, not the interim. So that Miami card is loaded.
Yeah. Let's start there. I think that's the bigger. And we'll obviously when the fights are announced. But I think to me, with Ilya vacating, and it's been reported like that's something that he wanted to do, not something the UFC wanted to make him do. What do you make of that? And it's reported also like it may not be him and Islam right away.
First of all, let's just think about it in terms of Ilya was technically on a rampage in his last few title defenses. To think that right now he was already possibly headed towards what would be considered, a top tier champion ever. You know what I'm saying? They would just because of the performances. He beat Volk. We saw him take Max out. Before that, the before we really got fully invested into him, I can't lie. The fight against Josh Emmett was another one I was interested in. And now for him to just I don't want to say skip the line because he's earned it. So to jump to another division full of murderers to a degree, in a sense where you don't know how deep the water is until you jump in. It says 12 feet. I know what 12 is. Do you know what 12 is? I was by 6, 7, and 8 all day. I've been swimming, but when you get in that Olympic-sized pool and you jump off the high dive and you really get down to that 12 after you jump in, it's a little different. So I think like a nice tune-up would not be out of the box. You know what I'm saying? I think let's get him one tune-up fight before we jump the gun and have him straight in there with Islam. Because I think
him and Armin right off.
Sarukian would be. I mean, Sarukian would probably like that. What I would think stylistically, I think Sarukian's too big for him. That's too pause. But I think that's too big. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do it, you got to give him somebody who's like inside of
the top guy. Wait, like this guy's a former champion.
That's what I'm saying. Inside of that top 10, maybe you let him do Hooker or something. I don't know. Hooker comes back eventually. By that time, maybe we'll do that.
It's either Armin or the belt for me, Bobby. Or what about you?
You want to go right at one and just that's it.
He's the former featherweight champion. Like he is the reigning featherweight champion. If you really until April.
I want to see him. I want to see him beat. So he got it. I'm saying I understand your logic to go straight at number 1 or number 2.
If he was the champion, you would say it's champion versus champion, right? But if like he had cleaned out, I don't really like the fact that he's moving up, but he says he can't make the weight. He can't make the weight. He's willing not to hold up the division, so I kind of like that either. But Bobby, what about you? I think I'd do him and Islam or him and Armin right away.
When are we going to realize that we are not on this man's timeline and he does not give a fuck what we think and he is going to do what he is going to do, whether it's vacate, go up. To take Witt's Olympic pool analogy, he's going straight to the high dive. There is no other opponent. This is by far the biggest fight the UFC could make, and they got to do it. Make it for International Fight Week. Now, I will say, Ilya is crazy enough to where I could see him vacating and taking a fight very easily. But I think the UFC is a big enough fan of Ilya that they're going to want to put him in that spot next. And, with everything else that they've already made in the last week, I put it at a very low chance that this fight does not get made by at least the end of the year. But I'm pretty confident that it'll be International Fight Week. And, he has connections with Armin, so I don't really see that fight happening. I don't need to see him fight Oliveira. I personally do not care at all that he vacated because, spoiler alert, I think Volk deserved the rematch, but I did not want to see that again for Volk. So Ilya did us all a favor. He dropped the title and is not holding anything. So, give this man his flowers. Instant title shot. Let's go.
I'm with you, and I'm going to say this. If it's really because, and we're all older now, you know what I'm saying? If it's really because at his age, cutting the weight is damages your kidneys. We hear all kinds of these stories about fighters cutting the weight. If that's the case, I'm with it because I got a chance to see some of the replays from some of the last year's UFC when he was not fighting. He's I'll let the shirt, don't get me wrong, the shirts he's wearing are small. He's a fashionable guy. He wears really nice clothes. But I was like, yeah, maybe he is that big. So who knows, bro?
He's
so you want
fought
to
at lightweight before, if you remember, his initial debut.
Right, lightweight.
He missed weight at featherweight, and they fought at lightweight. I think against Jai Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is as heavy as Islam. He's around 190 or something. You see,
reports are 180 or so. Yeah.
Yeah, which it looks like I said in the two things, they show him on the side. He's got the shiny polyester joint on. He looks 195-ish. He looks right around there. So I his walking around rate could be right there, and then losing 2 pounds just to make weight. I think he could do it. So, but I'm excited either way, man. Let's put it like that. Me personally, Armin Sarukian, Islam Makhachev, either one, I'm down for.
And it opens up an entire division aside from that too. We are this is literally the definition of having your cake and eating it too.
I don't know I think it opens up the featherweight division, but I think it causes a lot of problems at the lightweight division because you have Charles there, you have Armin there, and now you have Ilya there. So do you do Ilya, Islam, Charles, and Armin too?
Yeah.
On the same card. You got Max Holloway that's right there. We know Gaethje's right there. He's fighting in a week's time. So I'm okay with that.
I was excited to see Dan Hooker before they took him out. The last Dan Hooker fight was a stand up,
I think everybody wanted
to give him a round of applause type of fight.
Yeah.
That's a bummer we lost the Hooker fight.
Definitely.
And I get the log jam at 55, but part of the problem with the log jam is it's a lot of old guys, and this is something fresh and new. Now, they promised Charles something. That might be a different story, but it would not shock me if they just book him and Armin for a 5-round rematch. But, the UFC has a bunch of options, but I think in the end, when they look at it, and the one thing we're not talking about, this is the best thing for Islam too, in my opinion. Islam needed a big money fight like this, and he has it. So I think both sides will kind of agree with that. And I know all the, talk about having him do a contender first, but if we saw a guy come in from Ryzen and fight for the 125-pound title, you don't think the guy that KO'd Volkanovski and Max Holloway for the first time is not fighting immediately for the belt? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree with that part. I think he probably fights for the belt. Just makes a logjam, and who knows? Islam's talked about also moving up to 170, but he's not going to fight Bilal. So maybe I don't like the matchup.
Maybe we
JDM
start a
versus
parade.
Bilal.
All the champs move up one.
That's a
Hey,
free Ruby for Bilal.
Yeah, I
I
think
maybe
it's.
know you hate it too. I
did you
can
say a
see
free
it.
Rupel? Did you
You're
say
like,
a free
and like
Rupel?
I'm just as bummed that Shavkat didn't get made. Like when that announcement hit, I was like, the Ilya thing didn't hit me right away because I was pretty pissed off that we were getting robbed of Bilal and Shavkat, and I was gonna have to wait for that. But I will
And we're
maintain
gonna.
my patience and a nice little pit stop and Ruby for Bilal in Montreal.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup for JDM. I feel like we saw what Gilbert did to him, and we'll make picks and we'll break it down. I just don't like the matchup right off the bat. Shavkat's still injured, so it would have been nice to see Shavkat, but nonetheless, we'll have to wait on that at least. Later down the road. I want to get into this past Saturday and really just kind of look at the main event. It was going well. I mean, this card was the prelims 7 for 7 on finishes, and then you get to the main event, and it just the whole eye poke situation. Song eye pokes him Henry a couple times. Now, I will say this: watching it live Saturday, I don't want to say I did. I literally didn't think. I thought Henry was playing games. Like just watching his body language, he was sitting down, he was smiling, he was doing all types of just shit, and you're just like, I don't know, But then you kind of look at it now, where a few days are removed, and I look at it, maybe he probably couldn't see, I mean, his eye was scratched and things like that. I thought Herzog handled it perfectly. They probably should have took a point away in hindsight from Song. But it could have been a draw. Instead, Henry gets the loss, and the bosses are pissed at him. Bobby, your thoughts on the main event that happened in the IPOC controversy?
I mean, definitely a sour way to end the card with especially like how it went, like you said, it started like all finishes and stuff. It was moving quick. Crowd was great. The actual fight itself, Song looked pretty good. He was, able to hit Henry, but still maintain the distance enough so Henry couldn't implement any wrestling really. Henry kind of seemed to throw the wrestling out the window a little bit and just started moving forward and hitting him with the jab. And towards the end of that third round, Cejudo was hitting him with that jab, and he was doing a little bit of damage. And then the eye poke came in, and yeah, that was just a knuckle straight in the eye. And the way the commission handled it was a little bit bizarre. Like he asked for the towel, and they brought him a bar napkin. Like I don't know how that's supposed to make you like any more unblind, but I'm kind of with you. Like in the real time aspect, like I thought Herzog kind of handled it the best he could have, but at the same time, I could completely understand wanting the point to be taken. I personally didn't think that Song kicked Henry in the nuts on one of those.
That wasn't even a nut. That was to the leg. Like on the replay, it clearly showed to the leg. So I would have had a problem with that part. Like if they would have said that was like you can clearly see on the leg on the replay that was to the leg.
My whole thing with it, and I know like the commissions are the ones that hired the refs and stuff, but the biggest problem with this is this incident could happen. Like, let's just say this incident happens 5 times. I assure you it would be 5 different outcomes every single time. And that's like the bigger problem with it. I mean, let's not even like mention the fact that maybe if they were wearing the new gloves, the poke would not have been as bad because they covered the knuckle a little bit more. I know the gloves, the fingers are still exposed and pokes are still possible, but I don't think it would have been as bad of a poke. But at the same time, Henry definitely had that momentum, like going in when he got poked. So it was just nasty. It's kind of, not to blame his corner, but if they had a better understanding of the rules, they should have never let him continue in that third round. Because, that was the whole bizarre part to me was why I picked up on immediately, Henry was knocking that jab down, and then when the fight resumed, he didn't throw it once. It was just all defensive. So he definitely seemed like he could not see, as he said. So I kind of thought it was a good fight. I think if any other person does that, Dana White is saying, let's run it back. He has still not gotten over Henry retiring during the pandemic off the first event, and he's salty. So, someone's going to pay the price, and unfortunately, it's Henry. But I don't like it, but it's unfortunately where the sport kind of goes when you have these inconsistencies because of the officiating.
What do you make of Henry? I can't fucking see Cejudo Saturday.
Bro, man. First off, man, I was one of those people. I was excited for the fight. I was ready to see it. Henry Cejudo making his, much long-awaited return to, the octagon, and in a fashion in which we were, predicting, hey, look, if he beats Song Yadong, that's pretty good. He's gonna move up. Nah, man. First off, it was a kick to the leg. It was a kick to the leg. And even in reverberation, you might have still felt it in your sack a little bit. I understand that, but I think what we were witnessing was Henry Cejudo's knowledge and his gamesmanship as a veteran. You see what I'm saying? Like, he knew that it wasn't a direct kick to the cup like in other instances, but I'm going to take all 5 of these minutes because right now Song Yadong is pretty warm. He's tagging me up. I'm gonna calm his ass down. I'm gonna sit down for a minute. Let me take all of the time. You know what I'm saying? Then I poke number 1 happens. It's in my eye. You know what I'm saying? I poke number 2. I give him 100% credit because he went, just like you said, Bobby. He went out there, and it was to me, obviously, like, it looked visually deficient. Like, it looked like he could not tell which side Song Yadong was on.
To me, he should have never started. After the 5 minutes, he should have said, "I can't go."
Yeah,
like, there's a no contest and it's over.
That is the thing. That is where I think the gamesmanship ended. You know what I'm saying? I think his knowledge at the time, probably under duress, he was like, "Oh man, they are going to end it. The doctor is going to end it. Then it'll be a no contest." Nah, he should, just like you said, like, bro, pour some water in my eye again. Like, give me some, aqua. Don't give me no Aquafina. No, don't do that. But give me something. Let me rinse this thing out. And still, yet once again, he was completely at a deficit when he stepped back into the ring. I feel for him. You know what I mean? I know he wanted the opportunity to do something, but when they went to the cards, as soon as they went to the cards, I said, yeah, it was over. This is all Song Yadong. Would the point have changed it in his favor?
It would have been a draw at that point in time. It would have been.
I would have been down for a draw at that point. But for sure, man, it's really unfortunate that, even from our side of the table, outside viewing it, that we got to speculate. You know what I'm saying? Because clearly he said it still. He's still a little blurry to this day.
Yeah, it's interesting too, and he's kind of come out and said he said Dana and Hunter probably think I'm a bitch, like I bitched out of the fight, and I think he knows he does not stand in good standing with Dana and the brass. It'll be interesting. Bobby kind of alluded to and said, like, hey, they have no interest in running this back, while Song and Henry do have interest in running this back. Like, they both have kind of said, hey, we'll run this back. Song kind of called out O'Malley. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen, Bobby. I think it's going to be O'Malley and Merab, which is kind of crazy because Merab's had a defense and O'Malley hasn't fought since the title loss, which is a little wild to me.
It looks like it might be some of the same thing if they do it immediately.
But what do you guys? Who is next for Song? If it's not it doesn't seem like it's going to be a rematch for Henry on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's tough. But at the same time, like, I do think Song was I mean, granted, Henry was getting the jab going. So he if the fight continued, maybe he could have won. But I had Song up 3 rounds in that. So, if they're going with someone new, like I don't know what a lot of people are kind of booked. Like maybe Peter Yan might be a good option for him.
They fought not too long. That was Song's last fight, wasn't it? They lost. He lost to Yan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he kind of had, and that might be right. He wants to run it back, is because he kind of already sees the long gym in the division. Sandhagen is booked with Figgy. I would have probably said, one of the two of them. Cheeto just got announced for Batista. So, ironically, the UFC's probably best move is to run it back just because where the division is, but they'll probably go one right up or something. And, I guess the only benefit is Song got his win and show money, but, I can see the argument.
Song versus Umar? That's it, right? If it's not going to be.
So the only reason I didn't mention Umar is because I'm pretty sure they're getting ready to book Umar versus Peter Yan.
Okay.
So, but I would also, that'd be an interesting fight for Song for sure.
Song versus Peter Rob Font, who fought on the same card. That makes sense.
That probably does make the most sense. Rob Font did come back and get a really good win. Aside from the glove touch punch at the beginning, everything else looked great. So yeah, I mean, I would say either do Font or run back to Cejudo. So
yeah, literally, I'm looking at the rankings, right? The bantamweight rankings. So I think it's going to be it looks like they're going to run back O'Malley and Merab, Yan and Umar. We just said, like you said, Corey and 4 and 5's matched up together. Song 6 after the win.
Yeah.
Cheeto's got a fight. Cheeto's booked. Rob, so it just makes sense. Rob's 8 and Henry's 9. So let Song pick whoever he wants, whether it's going to be Rob or the rematch on Henry.
Yeah, let's see if he gets a fight late third quarter, and it's go after all of these fights take place in the next 2 months.
Yeah, I mean you're probably right. He might have to wait a while to see kind of how these guys play out. I don't know if he wants to. He's kind of sat out most of the year last year. Said he was trying to get a fight and was finally able to get one. So
I mean, look, you know what? The bosses are the bosses right now, and these fight night cards are starting to get a little rickety. You know what I'm saying? Where if they throw them in there at the top of a fight night, make them do your main event, and give them somebody at the bottom who wants to come up and try for a contender.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to shout out big fights on that. That Seattle card was great from top to finish. Anthony Hernandez, a nice unanimous decision. He continues to move up the middleweight. We just mentioned Rob Font. John Silva, John the Lord Silva absolutely punishes Mezalik. I'm not even going to pronounce his last name. And now he calls out Bryce Mitchell, and he's now going to turn around on the same card that we just talked with Mr. Iron Mike Chandler on. He's going to fight Bryce Mitchell. So a quick turnaround for him, but it's not like he took any damage in that fight. I thought that fight was funny. He literally pointed at the ref and was like, stop the fight. And the ref didn't stop it. And the guy literally just covered up, was like, I'm done here. I'll take my quick ass beating.
Mercy stoppage class by John there. I mean, I want to hurt him anymore. And he that is probably the most interesting thing to me now that Ilya's vacated. I could legitimately see him being a champion by the end of next year. And this is exactly what that Bryce Mitchell matchup is. And it's pretty wild that he had the call out and then that shit got booked before, granted we pushed the show back a day, but the fact that he is already booked, if you don't count the pandemic, that is probably a record for the fastest booking turnaround.
It's you're probably right as far as a guy fighting and then turn around and turn
call out and then get the fight you want.
recently. Remember, like Colin fought, lost, and then they've already booked him. But that fight's actually later down the road as far as Silva's fight, the London card, right? Is the London after or before 3/14 or whatever?
It's the end of March, so I think it's a little bit
right after, right? 3/14's right after, right?
I mean,
so
Silva probably wanted to. I wonder if they like offered him like Miami or Montreal, because it looked like Montreal needed an event. But Carlos Prates is on the Miami card as well, so he probably was going to do camp with them anyway. So he's like, "Nah, let me do it in Miami." And the UFC had no problem obliging. Like,
I think there was talk, the way he said on Ariel, there was talk about him fighting next week.
Louis.
Very well could be. I can't rule it out, but I don't know. I think if that's really an option, the UFC would have done that one. But maybe they just want to go off the momentum and put him on Bryce. But the physique matchup is definitely a good replacement for like the stylistic of the Hooker fight. But I am worried that we never get to see Hooker and Gaethje. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and real quick, shout out to Ricky Simone, had a big win. Austin Vanderford got his first win in the UFC. So nice. Seattle was a nice card. I just want to look at. I want to pick the main event real quick on this Saturday, and then we'll get into the boxing with a lot of boxing on obviously Saturday. Plus we got boxing news. Plus we got Tank Davis fighting on this Saturday as well. But this Saturday is a crappy Apex card. I mean, this is the epitome of Apex cards here. I mean, it is headlined other than my Manel Kape versus Asu Almabayev.
Almabayev. He was close. I think it's Alma from Kazakhstan. You know what I'm saying? They're out there, baby.
Yeah, him and my guy. From Kazakhstan. Shavkat.
Yep.
Manel Kape is the favorite here. He's minus 220. He's 20-7. The guy Almabayev, who is he stepping in for? Kape was supposed to fight somebody else named
Roy Val.
Oh, that's it. That's right. Roy Val. Yeah. Kape is coming. He's won 3 out of his last 4. The only loss is that awesome Muhammad Makayev fight. Asu is 21-2. He is the dog on the card, and he is on a good. He hasn't lost in the UFC. In fact, he had 2 back-to-back losses, and after that, he hasn't lost since. So he's 22-2. He is the dog at plus 180. So. What's your thoughts here on this top main event, flyweight event at the glorious Apex?
Yeah, first of all, I just looked it up. So Asu Almabayev, right? His nickname is Zulfikar, right? Zulfikar. Put it in Google. Say, Google, what does that mean? And Zulfikar is an Arabic name that translates into the spine splitter or the severer of the spine. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I want to just go out there and just go up against this unknown spine splitter. But he's not unknown, man. Real life, Almabayev is out here in the streets right now, ranked at I think is at 8, if I'm not mistaken, at flyweight. So he's got some weight behind him. If I'm looking at these last couple of fights, so of course he's beaten Johnson. I think I watched the Vergara fight. I did not watch the Johnson fight. And the Kalu, that was definitely a decision, unanimous decision, last year. So he's got some motion going into this fight. This being his first fight in 2025. Coming off what is 3-fight win streak. I'm interested to see what he does right now. Manel Kape ain't no joke. We did get a chance to witness him go off not only in the preliminaries but in the ring. This is actually one of those where I might have to tune in to see this one, because now, especially on short notice, we've had a lot of short notices, especially since last week. This young man may actually do a bit of an upset, even though he's the dog on the card.
Who you like winning?
To be honest with you, man, this is a tough one. This is for me like a pick 'em. It's almost split 50-50, but I'm going to go with the more experienced Manel Cape, man. Shout out to Manel. Pull it out, man. Let's go ahead and see what you if you can really be about what you've been talking about.
Bobby, over under 3.5 racial slurs. Manel Cape says, either throughout tomorrow or on Saturday on the microphone.
Do podcasts he's been on in the last 48 hours count? You never know what you're gonna get with Cape, but leave me to be the sick fuck to actually look at this card. Like, I know it looks pretty rough.
Real rough.
Really disrespecting Charles Johnson. He's like,
I was gonna shout out Energy, my guy. That's my guy.
He's really low on the card, and my only thinking behind that is this card is so weak. They put him on the bottom of it to get people to tune in to hook him in, because the dude he's fighting has some pretty decent finishing power too. So, but getting back to the main event, you never know what you're gonna get with Manel, but that is kind of the thing I'm most excited to see, like how he reacts to being in a main event, having a 5-round fight. He's training with Nixick. So is he going to get Manel to listen to him, or is Manel going to do the Sean Strickland? It is in the Apex. So I kind of think Manel will remain focused in the fight and be able to probably pull off the win here. But the short notice opponent is kind of a change up. I am really bummed that Royval pulled out, because I was really looking forward to that. But, this dude's on a streak as well, so it's still nothing to sneeze at. The card to me is not the issue. It's that we go from the electric 12th man in Seattle with that noise to this dead environment. That is more mind numbing than any of the fights are.
I think the card fits the profile though, right?
You definitely know where this is by looking at it for sure. It's
an Apex level card with Apex level talent.
But it's whenever there's these ones that we shit on, there's always some entertaining ones, but definitely for the main card, it's rough. For that co-main and stuff. It's but I'm sure at the same time we're coming off a high bar too. So there's who knows? Maybe we get the first 7 fights and finishes like the last one. But I know Charles Johnson is going to show out and at least give us some violence. So there'll be some good sleepers to tune into for sure.
Yeah, I was going to shout out Charles Johnson, represent St. Louis, Skull Gang. As always, he won 4 fights last year in a row. So he's on it. He is on one. The disrespect that the UFC has done to my man is how is he? This is a guy who people, if you go online, we're touting to actually fight Cape. You know what I mean? To be in the main event. People who are online have been saying, hey, this guy needs to fight like a top contender now. Everybody, he seems to have people behind him. And the disrespect he's gotten from the brass, putting him on the second fight on this card is absurd to me.
He won 4 fights last year. He should be no lower than the co-main event. I'm sorry.
He should be the co-main. Cody Brundage is on the co-main event. No disrespect to Cody Brundage, but come on.
Shout out to Cody Brundage, man.
Give my guy Charles. I'm going Cape, by the way, in the main event. That I'm not going to lie to you. I'm probably not going to watch it. I'm all in on the WWE Elimination Chamber Saturday night after the daughter's birthday party.
Ooh, all right.
But we had some highlights in boxing Saturday. Go ahead and are we going to get a third fight here of Bichero and Bivridov or whatever his name was?
Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, we got a little bit of boxing. 'Boxing to talk about on Headkicks and Haymakers.
Yeah, I got Charles.
Y'all, man, ladies and gentlemen, we got a little bit of boxing to talk about on Headkicks and Haymakers. Y'all, man, ladies and gentlemen, we got a little bit of boxing to talk about on Headkicks and Haymakers. All right, y'all know I gotta do that shit. Anyway, so to be real with you, bro, this is how it went. Let's just break down the basics, man. Let's start where it really began at for me. From the outside looking in, the card was slated to be the best card ever made. Blah blah blah, and we was in on it. Everybody, we was like, "Yep, this is it. It's gonna happen." Can't believe it. And then all of a sudden, people started dropping like flies. My man Floyd Schofield, unfortunately, somehow magically sick, dying, couldn't do it. Then we got Daniel Dubois, unfortunately, somehow magically sick, dying, couldn't do it. Don't know why. Then we got two replacement fighters, one of which, okay, was putting on solar panels on a roof of a house. Okay, when he got the phone call, he called his boss, said, "Hey, boss, you're gonna have to call the other crew over here because I gotta get on a plane and go to Saudi Arabia." And I'm talking about Josh Padley. When I think about that, first off, the one of the biggest fights on the card, that had to be spoken of because Josh Padley was literally a working man's man. It's like Rocky, but in reverse with colors. It literally happened. But Big Bang Zhang got knocked out. Who thought that was going to happen? I did not. Ajit Kabayel took him out with a body shot. And I want to say it was in the 6th round, like halfway through the 6th round. That was crazy to see. So it started off when I started watching. It started off really good. My man Virgil Ortiz took it all the way to the end with Israel Madrimov by unanimous decision. I thought it was a little closer than unanimous. I pretty much had that down to split. Then we got the Carlos Adame and Hamza Shiriaz, right? A draw. This fight would have, in my opinion, been a fight of the night had they picked a winner. But like literally, these were two guys. They went in there. They were slugging it out, and literally, I did not know who to pick. Hamza Shirian definitely had a little bit more of the second half of the fight than Carlos Adame. But excuse me, look at that. Got me clicking on stuff wrong. But yeah, but in the end, I really was happy to see that one. Then we get to the bread and butter of the card. Shakur Stevenson, straight up and down, lightweight title. This was supposed to be a walkthrough. Okay, this was not supposed to be where I think it went. Okay, it went 9 rounds, and midway through, I want to say maybe the 6th or 7th round, obviously something happened with Shakur Stevenson's hand or his left hand. Shakur Stevenson is a southpaw, so it's his most dominant hand, and you can see him shaking and trying to reposition his hand in the glove. But Josh Padley, a solar panel installer, made it 9 rounds with Shakur Stevenson. Don't get me wrong, Josh Padley's stock has risen. He probably got some life-changing money. He probably is not going to go back to work for the next month. He doesn't have to. I'm pretty sure his pockets are pretty fat. But the thing about Shakur Stevenson in this fight, in this instance, he literally got on the microphone post-fight and said, "Yeah, I want to fight Gervonta Tank Davis." Sir, you want to fight Tank Davis? I'm not mad at that, okay? You got to know where your bread is being buttered. And the idea is, while you are in the presence of Turkey Al Sheikhs and the people at Riyadh season who are knowledgeable about boxing and they are aware that Tank is fighting Lamont Roach, let's make sure that they know that that's what you want to do. Cool. But at the same time, the light heavyweight champions include other people besides Tank, but he knows that's where the money is at. That's the only fight to make monetarily that will help improve his stock, where he's not such a quote unquote boring fighter, where he's not just a defensive fighter. He's not Floyd, but also he's not Tank. You know what I'm saying? I've been on the show numerous times and said that we as fight fans have been spoiled by Triple G and Tank Davis and the excitement that they bring into fights. So he wants to fight Tank Davis. Let's see what happens with Lamont Roach this weekend. Then boom, like what? We got another fight? Yeah, this was exciting too. Joseph Parker, right? The big Samoan. You know what I'm saying? Right here, fighting the stand-in Martin McCauley. Now, Martin McCauley, I talked about it last week. It's technically the heavyweight boogeyman. Before now, he was in a lot of videos where he goes to people's camps and he portrays a larger slugger, so to speak, really George Foreman-esque. He doesn't have a lot of body movement, but he takes stone cold punches to the face. Came in at 310 or 315 straight off the plane. Huh? And he's a vegetarian. Made absolutely no sense to me how many vegetables this man has to eat to be 315 pounds, but it worked. And then he got in the ring against Joseph Parker, who, last time we saw something really big from him, he was putting Deontay Wilder in a place that he never wanted to be. But Joseph Parker ends the fight on a punch that doesn't even land flushly against Martin McCauley. It pretty much grazed the back top of his temple, and I think that's one of those sensitive places where you're guaranteed to get whiplash or a concussion. So boom, that fight ends. Then we get to the main event, the end all be all. Oh my God, it's Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. Here we go. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be a slugger. It's going to be a slobber knocker. It's going to be a standout brawl, and once again, that's what we got. Dimitri Bivol wins by majority decision. I think it was the right call. In the last fight, he looked a little bit outmatched, but he came on so strong in the championship rounds that it made it look better. This fight was all Bivol, especially in the very very early rounds, in my opinion. Now that this has happened, or these last two fights, these last three, so we're talking about Shakur Stevenson calling out Gervonta Tank Davis. So we got to see what happens with Tank this weekend. Joseph Parker, he's right there at the top. Ain't nobody at the top of the heavyweight division except for Usyk. So we got to see what happens with that. Then, of course, Dimitri Bivol is now the undisputed light heavyweight champion belt holder, right? So we've got to see if they ever get a chance to put it with Benavidez, who just won against Joseph Morale. So these three things all have been leading up to this precipice at this moment, and the rest of the year is going to be we're just waiting on Canelo to fight Bud. I really don't care about that. I'm not saying that there aren't other important boxing matches, but these three set us up for at least two more pay-per-views that won't happen until the fourth quarter. I promise you that. But man, everybody got paid. If you was a stand-in, if they would have called me, Bodkins, you would have had to carry my towel and let me spit in the bucket in front of you, because I would have got my ass for that money. I guarantee you. But yeah, big shouts out to all the guys who stood in. Josh Padley. I bet you he never pays for a beer in his English pub ever again. You know what I'm saying? Just because he went out there and showed his heart.
Bobby, you got some thoughts here?
Turkey gave that dude a house plus paying him. That was wild. Specifically, the entire card was amazing. Aside from the main event, the best fight on the card was the first fight on the pay-per-view, which was a title fight. I mean, just back and forth. But getting back to Beterbiev and Bivol, in real time, I scored it a draw. I had it 6-6 or 114-114. A lot of those rounds were close for sure. And you saw a different Beterbiev in the beginning of the fight. He definitely started a lot faster. Where, the last fight, he kind of came on in the later rounds and stuff. But then Bivol kind of, after Beterbiev had a very good looking round 5, Bivol came back in round 6 and kind of answered back. So a lot of those rounds were like very close. In the end, like, I have no issue with it being a decision or the decision. I know one of the scorecards had it a draw, so that guy must have, seen it through my perspective and stuff. But for me, I understand that, like, Benavidez is like waiting and he's next, but he can wait. Like, I want to see this trilogy. Like, that should be the priority. This was Beterbiev's first loss. He didn't have to give Bivol the rematch. I mean, in the end, they all did it for cake. But I'd say have Benavidez figure something out or wait and book this trilogy ASAP, because I've already rewatched the fight multiple times, and it is such an enjoy. Like, this is easily fight of the year currently for boxing. Not even.
And I'm in agreement with you. The one thing that I think I give everybody who's pretty much staking their claim, so to speak, like post fight or pre fight or whatever, like just like Shakur did. Even though Shakur is a boring fighter, he probably, even though they won't say it, he probably broke his hand somewhere in there. He literally
He got
came
the
out.
finish, though. Shakur got the finish, though, right?
Yeah, Shakur got the finish, but the point is,
That's
he
what he.
got to the ninth round.
Yeah,
Josh
I mean,
Padley.
he got a finish. So I mean, like, I'll give him credit there. Like, he
And
needed to have a finish.
you don't want to slip on a banana peel if you're Shakur fighting a plumber,
Exactly,
Like,
and that was exactly
Bradley
it.
ain't a plumber. Like, I shouldn't have said that. Like, he is an actual boxer.
And he was
Showed that
undefeated
in the fight. But
Yeah.
Shakur, like, for me, like, Benavidez, like, I want Canelo to stop fucking around with like the nonsense. I know the Crawford fight is coming up after, but like, why not do Benavidez before that instead of this fight that nobody like really cares to see in Riyadh? Like, I mean, Benavidez has different options, and like, Shakur's kind of always going to get criticism. It's just because of his defense. I've kind of just come to get used to it at this point.
and
He's
see
he is. I
go
think
ahead.
Stevenson's like Floyd, but like Floyd, at least like when he was Stevenson age, was more offensive, and then the older he got, became more defensive. You know what I mean? Trying to protect that zero, where Stevenson is just kind of not. He's like doesn't have that
Yeah, he
style.
don't care. Yeah, he don't care about that. He's going all out with the defense.
And Tank fights Saturday night. I think it's for the most part. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is a fight he should win. And if it's him and Steve, I think Tank doesn't need Stevenson. Stevenson needs Tank for the super fight.
This is where and Bobby pretty much took the words out of my mouth. So this is where we are, right? Lightweight champions are Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, who somehow, for some reason, because of the fights they arrange him in, keeps dancing with retirement, and Keyshawn Davis. Now, Keyshawn Davis is way more exciting to me to fight Shakur Stevenson, but Shakur Stevenson wants the money, so he wants to fight Tank. There's going to be a rehydration clause in there somewhere. Somebody is not going to be able to get as big as they want to be. Pause. But then I got the same thing, the same instance about who does what when Benavidez is on camera in front of the Sheiks, shaking hands, and he says right there, "Hey, I'm done chasing Canelo. That's it. Canelo can do what he wants. I want to see what happens with the Bivol fight." So that go ahead and puts it out there. Hey, look, that's the next thing. But in reality, I just saw earlier today that Canelo's team has signed the 4-fight deal with Riyadh Season. So 4 fights with one already on the docket. That means 3 more. That means at least
he got 2 on the docket. He's got 1 in May, and we know we're getting the Bud later on this year.
Yeah, I don't think the one in May is a Riyadh Season fight.
It is because it's fighting in Riyadh. It's the first fight. It's the first fight on the contract because he's fighting actually in Saudi
Arabia.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 2. So we got 2. So he's got 2 more to make that will be worth our while, is in my opinion, because right now Canelo is going for the bank. He's going to be the big man. If we can think of Canelo Alvarez in the same sense of Floyd, but of Hispanic descent and running his own promotion in the end, I think that's where he's headed. And if he takes no losses in between that time, he'll be at the top of the game when he puts his gloves down, especially monetarily, especially with the money.
I think what happened with that fight in May is pretty much that was Canelo's negotiation with the Jake Paul thing, because Crawford was on the table and Canelo is pretty much like showing his stick to Turkey, being like, "Nah, I'll do Canelo. You give me a 4-fight deal, but you're giving me a motherfucking layup in May, and that will be my first fight in Riyadh." And Turkey literally had no other option because, amazingly enough, a YouTuber was giving Turkey a run for his money.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say run for his money, but
well, he might have been used to make those negotiations, but that
I think that was a use.
Biggest things in Jake Paul's career. is
No,
no
I know what you're saying. I'm just saying nobody can run for, you know what I mean, make a run at Turkey's money. Like he's, you know what I mean, like he's a different kind of rich. So
Put the Bugattis in your front yard and answer the door. That's it.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, Whit, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Oh man, yeah, just like you mentioned. So we got Tank Davis, Lamont Roach. So excited about this. What does this mean in the long run? To me, once again, it's going to boil down to whenever this is over with, how will the outcome predict to how long the next fight will happen, which could also involve all the aforementioned Shakur Stevenson. Another fight we want to make sure we look at and we paying attention to. Not too far down the card, we got interim WBA World Super welterweight title with Jonas Tellez and Julian Williams. I think that's going to be a good one. Low key, Jonas Tellez is I think like 9-0. Julian Williams got like 40 fights. And I swear to God, if it's not 40, it's a lot of them. And then right above that, another one, we got the WBA World Super Lightweight title. Jose Venezuela and then Gary Atunye Russell. Shout out to them. I think that's going to be another one. Mr. Russell 17-1 and Jose is 14-2. Let's see who gets what as we get closer to fight night coming up this weekend, March 1st. Let's go.
Bobby, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Not really. Just make Ilya and Islam. None of this contender bullshit. Get that one booked. International Fight Week, please. And
co-main to John and Tom. I'm down with it.
Nah, co-main will be Duplessis and Hamzat Chimaev. And that's the one caveat that I think Ilya and Islam could get moved to New York. And possibly they do Drekis versus Chimaev to headline. Because I just don't envision them stacking Islam and Chimaev on the same card. But at the same time, it's got that international fight week feel, especially if Islam is fighting Ilya. So
it's going to be Islam, Ilya, co-main to John and Tom.
Somebody, but look, if they don't do it in New York, they got to do it somewhere cool like that Clippers Stadium. Like that was a fly venue.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it's not Gone versus Aspinall.
All right, real quick, Whit, your son had a birthday, so happy birthday to your guy.
Woo, look, Caro, happy birthday, buddy! He's 6 years old, so big.
Yeah, happy birthday. Real quick, a couple shout outs on my end here real fast. Shout out to my son's basketball team. They play for the district championship game tomorrow. So good luck to them. We're going to need all the luck we can get. We play the number 1 ranked team in the state. So there's that. And shout out to my brother, John Lively. You see me wearing the Lively Inc. hat all the time. Today was his birthday. That's why I was coming in late. We had a little dinner for him. Shout out to my youngest daughter. She turns 12 tomorrow. So happy birthday to her. So other than that, folks, back at our normal time next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. And thanks again for Iron Mike Chandler. Make sure you follow him at Hear You at the Top on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. Other than that, for Whit, Bobby, I'm Bodkins. It's been another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. We'll see you back at our normal time next week, 8 o'clock Central, Wednesday night, right here on this channel. So see you then, folks.
I love it. You guys are so great.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.